Hey guys, I'm Kyle McCorkle. I'm a full-time real estate investor in central Pennsylvania. Today I'd like to talk to you about 5 things you need to know before you start flipping houses. Let's get into it. Number 1, the best and most important advice I can give you is that you must get the best possible deal when you buy. One of the most common real estate adages is that you make money when you buy right. So let's dig into why that is. It all comes down to control. You can't control what the market will be like when you sell in 4 to 6 months. And many aspects of the rehab are out of your control. Maybe you find something after purchasing that needs to be addressed and ends up costing you an extra $10,000 or $20,000. The most controllable factor is the purchase price. Doing a good rehab and picking pretty finishes, they're important, but if you didn't buy right, you could still lose money. Number 2, don't forget to account for hidden and overlooked costs. The big ones are holding costs, closing costs, and opportunity costs. Holding costs include utilities, property taxes, vacant property insurance, loan interest. In total, this can be $1,000 or more per month, depending on the size of the project. That's an extra $6,000 for a 6-month project. Remember that even if the project takes 4 months, it might take 1 to 2 months to actually sell after it gets listed. Closing costs include costs incurred on both the buy and the sell. Closing costs include transfer tax, depending on your state, title fees, and realtor commissions on the sale. This can add up to tens of thousands, especially if you're using a realtor to sell the property. Finally, opportunity costs measures the cost of your time. If you plan on doing the work yourself, allocate a portion of the profits to pay yourself a reasonable wage. If you make $10,000 on a flip, but maybe you spent 1,000 hours on the project, is your time really worth only $10 an hour? Would that time be better spent doing something else? My local gas station is paying $13 an hour, and there's no risk of losing money if you work there. Pay yourself for your time and for your financial risk. Number 3, cosmetic rehabs. So think about paint, flooring, kitchen, bathroom. They're much easier to estimate than more complex rehabs. More complex rehabs will include mechanicals such as HVAC, roof, plumbing, electrical. Those are going to get more difficult to estimate. Anything structural, think about moving walls, removing walls, foundation issues, water damage. They can blow up your budget. Our worst example of this was a house that we bought for $5,000, but ended up spending over $130,000 on the rehab due to water damage prevention, and other structural fixes. That being said, if you can get really good at estimating and completing more complex rehabs, you'll gain an advantage in the market because these things scare away most of your competition. Number 4, it can be tempting to skip staging, especially after you spend so much on the rehab. But staging pays for itself. We found on average that an unstaged property will take 1 to 2 months to get an accepted offer. The houses that we staged before listing sold in less than 7 days and often had bidding wars. So you're saving 1 to 2 months of holding costs, so let's call that $1,000 to $2,000, plus you're selling for a higher price. Let's call it at least $5,000 more. We use a very small, affordable staging company that only costs $1,000 to stage a 1,200 square foot house. So you're spending about $1,000 to save you $1,000 to $2,000 in holding costs and to increase your selling price by $5,000 or more. That's a good ROI. Number 5, grow your network and ensure someone is responsible for each step of the process. Don't try to do everything yourself. Find people who are good at what they do and assign them the appropriate tasks that match their skill set. This will make everything go smoothly. It ensures quality and accountability and avoids delays. Questions to ask yourself include, who finds the deals? Who gets them under contract? Who finances them? Who decides on the scope of work? Which contractors execute the scope of work? Who's in charge of selling the property? Do you use a realtor? And so on. And I got a bonus tip for you. Think in terms of probabilities and not absolutes. When most people analyze a flip, they'll figure they'll buy for X, rehab for Y, and sell for Z. I take this a step further. I model multiple scenarios looking at the best case, the worst case, and the most likely case. The probability of the rehab going way over budget and selling for 10% lower than expected, it's low, but I like to be able to at least break even in this worst case scenario. So let's work through an example. Let's say I find a property that I think could realistically sell for $200,000 after repair, and I estimate $40,000 in rehab costs and $20,000 in holding and closing costs. And because of tip number 1, I'm planning to buy at the right price for $100,000. In my most likely case, my profit will be $200,000 minus $40,000 rehab minus $20,000 holding and closing costs minus the $100,000 that I paid for the property. This comes out to a $40,000 profit. Now let's model the best case. Maybe we can sell for $205,000 and shave the rehab down to $35,000. So the best case would be selling for $205 minus $35 rehab minus $20 holding and closing costs minus the $100,000 that I paid for the property. Wow, that's a $50,000 profit if everything goes perfectly. Now here's the key. Consider the worst case. Maybe this property doesn't have a garage or it's on a small lot. The worst case is one of these features or lack thereof might hurt your resale value. So I might look at the worst case comps and determine the lowest I think the house would sell for would be $180,000. Then I'll consider the worst case rehab. Maybe it might end up needing a new roof or maybe waterproofing the basement. You don't know what you don't know. So I might figure the worst case rehab number would be $50,000. Finally, the project might take longer than you estimated, which means you increase your holding costs. So let's say $5,000 more. All right, let's do the math one more time. Selling for $180,000 minus $50,000 rehab minus $25,000 holding and closing costs minus the $100,000 that I paid for the property. I'm still making $5,000. That's a good deal. This means even in the worst case scenario, I'm still not losing money, which means I can survive and move on to the next deal. There you go, guys. 5 tips about flipping properties, plus a bonus math session. I'm Kyle McCorkle with Safe Home Offer. Thanks for watching.